sold-out Husky Stadium, site of one of college football's finest rivalries, Washington against Washington State. It's a day of intense rivalries in the Pac-10, but none more important than this game. The Huskies lead this series, winning 48, tying 6 of the previous 75 meetings, and Washington had won 8 in a row until last year. However, the last time Washington State has won here was in 1973. The Rose Bowl issue will be decided on a less than ideal weather day. We have a steady rain since early this morning, and the temperature at kickoff time will be 46 degrees. And here come the Cougars of Washington State. Washington State, they have won 4 in a row. They're playing very well after a slow start. They started out the season 2-4. And now the Huskies of Washington. With a 2-game winning streak, but more importantly, down the stretch, they have been tough. They've won 6 of their last 7 games. Hi, everybody. I'm Gary Bender. This game has a very familiar look to it. A year ago, Washington had to win to go to the Rose Bowl, and they come into this game realizing they're going to be playing a very fine football team. Washington State is probably the most improved team since the start of the year in the Pac-10. Jim Walden, the Cougars coach, said if we can win today and having 7 wins, it would show that our program has grown by leaps and bounds. Don James, on the other hand, his Huskies have had a surprising year. At the start of the year, some people thought they'd go 3-8. He's had a lot more fun this year because they haven't had the pressure of being ranked #1 in the country at the start of the year. And he loves to coach and pressure games. But he also knows he's playing the best Washington State team that he's faced. My broadcasting partner is Pat Hayden. And, Pat, they say this about Jim Walden. He gets the most out of his talent.
Well, Gary, he's had to recruit the kind of players that he can create, that 2 or 3 years down the road can help his football team. What he has done is incorporated the option play into his offense. That's unusual for the Pac-10. It's a passing conference, and Don James is concerned about it. The man who runs the Washington State offense is their quarterback, number 12, Ricky Turner. He's a senior. He is a dangerous type of quarterback who's particularly effective running the option play and when he gets to the perimeter of the defense in a run-pass situation.
Pat, what really impresses me about Washington is their balance between the run and pass.
That's typical of Don James type of team. They run the ball for 203 yards a game. They pass it for 211. The man who pulls their trigger is their quarterback, Steve Pelor. Now, as a sophomore, he led the team to a Rose Bowl. As a junior, he faced a little bit of adversity, but he has quietly led his team to another possible Rose Bowl berth. 2 arch rivals. They call this the Apple Cup. The last time that Washington State was able to win back-to-back games was in 1972 and 73. And 73, that's the last year that Washington State has won in Seattle.
Sponsored by Mazda and the full line of sophisticated Mazda products. And by Anheuser-Busch, brewers of Michelob. Some things speak for themselves.
The 15th-ranked Washington Huskies, 1 step away, 1 victory away from a trip to Pasadena. However, UCLA could return to the Rose Bowl if Washington loses today and they beat or tie USC. Jeff Jagger kicking off for the Washington Huskies, and there'll be no return on that one. Washington won the toss. They waved it off. As an end result, Washington State, with the option they elected to receive to start this game. The backs and receivers now for the Washington State Cougars.
Quarterback Ricky Turner, he's only playing at about 90% today because he hurt the index finger on his throwing hand last week.
Watch number 30, Kerry Porter. He has a school record 5 straight 100-yard days.
And in the offensive line, their best player is Charlie Flager. They like to run to their left side over Charlie.
Ricky Turner has 3 wideouts on this play. Only 1 set running back. Turner to throw. He has Kerry Porter, and the ball is loose. Washington has recovered. Joe Krakowski, number 56, a junior out of Fremont, California, came up with it.
What a way to start the football game off. Both coaches told us the key today was turning the ball over or not turning the ball over. You're going to watch Ricky Turner on first down, first offensive play of the game, the short little safe pass to Kerry Porter. Now remember, the ball is very wet, but it wasn't a matter of wetness there. It was a matter of getting hit. The ball popped out right there, number 5. Fred Small puts his helmet in there. The ball pops out, and there's Krakowski to make the recovery.
Everything is rain-soaked. A steady downpour since early this morning. Washington with a turnover. They have it at the 25 of Washington State. And a penalty flag before they get the ball snapped. The pitch was going to Sterling Hines. The turnovers, that has been something that Washington State has been much better about in the last few games.
You're right. The last 4 games, where they've won the last 4 games, they've only turned the ball over 5 times, so they have been very good at that.
Steve Pallure, he'll be the quarterback for the Huskies. Lee Cook and the Pac-10 officials in charge of today's game. You can see the surface behind glistening wet. Delay of the game, 5-yard penalty. Moves it back to the 30, so on the first snap, they didn't get the troops out there in time. First and 15 from the 30. Walt Hunt, Sterling Hines, the running backs behind Pallure. Here's Sterling Hines, and Hines will get a yard. Now Washington State defense, very, very tough up front. Millard and Williams in particular. Blankney that time leading the charge defensively, number 96. Here's the backs and receivers now for Washington.
Steve Pallure, the quarterback. His coaches say he's the most solid quarterback they've had around here.
The running back that you want to watch is Sterling Hines. He's the fastest they've ever had at Washington, 3 100-yard days.
And Danny Green, he's had 5 long-range touchdowns in the last 4 games.
And up front, their best lineman is Rick Mallory, a starter from a year ago, an ex-tight end. Pallure back now. 2nd down, 14, delivers to Dave Stransky, and Stransky to the 20-yard line. He'll be 5 yards short of the first down. Erwin Chappelle, a freshman, getting his first start, coming up and defending on the play. Defensively now for Washington State.
The offensive front, Keith Millard, they say he's the best in the Pac-10.
Boy, they have another guy on the other side, Eric Williams, and Jim Walden says he's the 2nd best in the conference.
The linebackers, number 96 in the middle, Lee Blakey, he's their leading tackler.
And Joe Taylor. Walden feels he's in the same class of Don Rogers of UCLA. Pallure on a pass, it would have been enough for the first down, but Tony Roten, the tight end, could not hang on, and what a blow was delivered by Ben Carrillo, number 91. It was Carrillo a year ago who was the Pac-10 Defensive Player of the Week for his play against Washington. Out of West Covina, California, 4th down and the field goal attempt. This will be a 37-yard kick by a freshman, Jeff Jagger, 18 of 24 this year. He's got plenty of foot on that one, and it's good. So Washington able to convert the turnover into 3 points. And at the 13:33 mark of the first quarter, the Huskies would like to return to the Rose Bowl for the 3rd time in 4 years. They strike first. Jeff Jagger, one of the real surprises of this season. An opportunistic Washington team has picked up 3 points. Jagger, who just kicked a 37-yard field goal, be booting to this man, number 88, Mike James, a freshman out of Tacoma, a brother, by the way, of Chris James, who was the starting fullback last year for Washington. And another fine kick. So the touchback will bring it out to the 20-yard line. This Washington Husky defense is tough. They're tough against the run. They're tough against the pass. Through the years, Don James has had outstanding teams. And let's look at them.
Well, here's a real tough one up in the front. Ron Holmes, he had 16 tackles last week, 2 sacks, and 2 fumble recoveries.
Joe Krakowski, he's their leading tackler, a very emotional football player.
And Timmy Amber also in the middle. They say he's as good as they've had in Washington.
Now back deep, Bestie Jackson leads them in interceptions with 4. From the 20, Washington State, give to Kerry Porter. Porter will go for 4 yards. Lynn Madsen, number 68, will make the stop for Washington.
We saw a play that is very characteristic of this Washington State team. They ran the dive play there to Kerry Porter. They've run that 60 times the last 3 football games.
SMU on their way to the Sun Bowl, beating Arkansas. Only one loss this year for the Mustangs, that against Texas. We have a man shaken up. Sam Burris has been hurt. That's number 82, a wide receiver for Washington State. Washington State will use as many as 6 wide receivers. They alternate them back and forth. You talked about the dive play, how many times they have run it. That it really puts the pressure on those men up front.
You know, in Washington State, the way they set it up, Gary, their offensive linemen take very wide splits, trying to separate the defenders, make them defend the entire width of the football field, then give the ball to Porter on a quick hitter right up the middle. And he usually picks up 3 or 4 yards. As you mentioned, he's had 5 100-yard games consecutively and 6 for the year.
Here's Sam Burris, a former player in Nevada, Las Vegas, a transfer from El Camino Junior College. He will come out. D.D. Moore comes in to replace him. He, along with Kittrick Taylor, now in for Washington State. Don James, the dean of Pac-10 coaches. Nothing is called on that field that doesn't go through that headset that he's wearing.
That's really amazing that he's the dean. It seemed like he just got here, but things change in the Pac-10.
A lot of security in coaching, right? 2nd and 7 now for Ricky Turner. Turner going to keep it. He's got some running room. He will get the first down and brings it out to the 32-yard line. Tim Meamber, 42. Ron Holmes, number 90, over to make the stop. A 9-yard scramble.
We said that Ricky Turner is most effective when he gets to the perimeter of the defense. They set this play up earlier by running the play to Porter. There they faked it. Turner gets to the corner. There's no one there on contain. It's a run-pass situation. He decides to run and does pick up the first down. Good play by Turner.
Jim Walden has a very interesting theory about weather and how it affects short quarterbacks. We'll talk about that after this play. First down now from the 32. The pitch back to Calvin, the freshman from Santa Ana, California, thrown for a loss, and that was Ron Holmes. And Don James says nobody's been able to block Ron Holmes this year.
Well, you're right. He's had 12 sacks this year. He's had 19 tackles for losses. He's got tremendous quickness. He's an athlete. Actually, he was a high school running back.
Now, there's the turnover ratio we were talking about earlier, Pat. And, of course, they've done much better down the stretch. Already turned it over once in this game.
Like I said, only 5 the last 4 games.
2nd down now, 13. Taylor, Moore, and Breland all flanked out for Washington State. Give to Porter. Gary Porter really gang tackled that time at the 31-yard line. I don't want to develop this story for a moment. We talked to Jim Walden, the Washington State coach. He said the rain cuts down your efficiency about 25%. But he also said it affects a short quarterback. Turner's what, 5'10", 5'11"?
He said the advantage is probably to Pelor for a couple of reasons. Number one, when it's raining as badly as it is here today, you generally throw shorter passes, which means your quarterback is dropping back shorter. So when you have a 5'9" or 5'10" quarterback, as Ricky Turner is, and he's dropping back, he has a little bit more difficulty seeing over the defensive lineman than a Steve Pelor, who's 6'4" would.
3rd and 10 for the Cougars. Turner on the sprint out, chased by Browning. Browning's going to get him. Dean Browning showing good quickness, able to wrestle Turner down way short of the first down.
This is one way, though, of getting Ricky Turner using his most effective skills, and that's running the football. Again, we've seen him roll out to the right once. This is a rollout to his left. The defense has the receivers well covered. There's nowhere for Turner to throw the ball, and he can't pick up the first down running the football, so Washington State's going to have to punt.
Here's the number 1 punter in the Pac-10, Glenn Harper, and he'll be kicking to Danny Green, number 80, and that's not a very good kick. He got it low. It's going to take a Washington State bounce, however, and you can see how wet the field is. It just comes to a grinding halt at the 22-yard line. Good roll. He got a 44-yard boot. Effective, not artistic. Washington leads by 3. The Washington Huskies, after that 44-yard kick by Harper, have the football at their own 22. Steve Pelor, his coaches feel he should be the player of the year in the Pac-10. Pitch back to Sterling Hines, and he can't get the corner at all. He may have gotten a yard, 2 at best. Okay, let's have an update. Some games back east. Let's go to the NCAA today. Here's Brent Musburger.
Gary, Notre Dame with a chance to win it against the Air Force Academy, but Mike Johnston's field goal is blocked. And the Irish close out the season with 3 consecutive losses. They'll go to the Liberty Bowl with a record of 6-5. Back to Gary.
Boy, Pat, it's been a tough finish for the last couple of 3 years for Notre Dame, hasn't it? There's a give up the middle to Walt Hunt, the big fullback. Hunt on a 2nd down and 8. Going to bring up 3rd down. Milford Hodge made the stop.
Let's take a look at Steve Pelor, the quarterback's grip. Remember, it's a wet, rainy day. Now, some quarterbacks on a wet, rainy day will move their right index finger toward the nose of the ball to get a better control of the football. Steve Pelor told us he has not. We'll take a look at Ricky Turner's grip a little later.
You did move it, didn't you, when you played?
Oh, I've got small hands.
3rd down and 5. Pelor to throw. Pressure. Oh, is he hit? That is Keith Millard, number 93. Incomplete pass. Millard, an all-conference performer. Boy, what a rush.
Well, we told you that that Mike Walden, Coach Walden, said that he was the best in the Pac-10. You're going to see why here. He puts incredible pressure on Pelor. He had 3 sacks last week, and if he keeps that up, Pelor is going to have a long afternoon.
Millard, he's intense. He will tee off on you and ask Steve Pelor if he does it. Big rush that time. To kick the football is going to be Thane Cleland, number 94.
Thane Cleland kicking.
Kittrick Taylor will receive the punt. He hit it very high. Very high. It takes a Husky bounce. It's going to go inside the 20-yard line. And it will die just outside the 15. However, there is a penalty flag thrown at the 25-yard line. That was a 57-yard kick. And remember, they're kicking with a ball that's wet. The wind's swirling around here. Well, we're certainly looking forward to next weekend. We have football and basketball coming your way next Friday. Ray Perkins of the Crimson Tide of Alabama will go into New England. Doug Flutie and Boston College will await their arrival. And then on Saturday, the premiere of our NCAA college basketball, the Kansas Jayhawks against Hakeem Abdul-Olajuwon and the Houston Cougars. Followed immediately by a classic that Pat and I are really looking forward to, the #1 ranked Nebraska Cornhuskers. Mike Rozier, who's just shattering every record against Oklahoma, and you play in the snake pit in Norman, you've got some problems.
We're going to take a look at the last penalty here, at the clipping penalty. The ball is bouncing around on a wet turf. There's a clip right there on number 57 of the Huskies. But the clip was there. He was running down the field, and the official was there to make the call.
As Egan, who's a backup center, number 57, Pat, that was guilty of that penalty. So it's inside the 8-yard line, and the field position has not been good for Washington State. In motion comes Freeland. Calvin, Richard Calvin, gets 2, maybe 3 yards on the play. Stuart Hill made the stop. That's a dive action right up the middle. We expect to see a lot of this afternoon. Defensively, well, let's look at it again.
Here, look at the line play of this Washington State team. On the line play, you're going to see the offensive lineman come down low when they run this dive play. We want to set that up as compared to the way the Washington offensive linemen block. But the Washington State offensive linemen come out a little bit lower, get after the knees and ankles of the Washington defenders.
Washington defensive team has given up only 16 touchdowns this year. A give to Porter. Porter breaks out of there, and he's got a 1st down. You can see the quickness of the sophomore from Great Falls, Montana, a 14-yard run.
Okay, well, we see the line gaps of this Washington State team. Bigger gaps than the Washington team does. This sets up this little dive play of Kerry Porter. It gives him a little bit more room to squeeze through the gap right there, and that's exactly what they're trying to do with those big splits in the offensive line.
Jim Walden has said what makes this guy tick is he doesn't really know. He says he's a long strider playing his position, which is unusual.
He says he's been very, very surprised and happily surprised.
And he's trying to figure out why he's so effective. Because I haven't coached long enough to know. A give to Calvin, swarmed under by the Huskies at the 25-yard line. Dean Browning leading the charge. We're having quite a battle in the Big Ten. Ohio State and Michigan been seesawing back and forth. Here's Brent with an update.
Gary, the Buckeyes have closed back to within 3 points. Watch this catch by Cedric Anderson. It's a beauty. The pass by Tomczak. It's 24-21. Ohio State's onside kick was unsuccessful. Michigan with the ball, but they must kill a minute and a half. Back to Gary and Pat.
Brent, it looks like whoever has that ball last is going to win that one. 2nd down 10 here for Washington State. Porter on a spinning move up the middle, and he'll have another 1st down. And now Porter is starting to make his presence felt. You can see why he's had 5 straight 100-yard days.
Again, just another straight dive play. This time they bring a guard around, though, on a trap right there. You see number 58, Dan Lynch. put a little block there that sprung Kerry Porter. They'll come at you with straight dives, and they run a little, change it up with a trap. The point is to get Kerry Porter into the line quickly. They don't line him up deep. He's only 3 yards away from the quarterback. You have to react quickly if you're on defense.
He's carried the load for this team. He has 33 yards. First down. There he goes again. And Porter across the 40 to the 41. Lynn Madsen, the nose guard, making the stop for Washington.
And this has been part of the problem that Washington has had preparing for this game here today. Last week, Washington played Southern Cal with the runs that I formation. It takes a lot longer for the tailback to get to the line of scrimmage, more time to react. Washington State has those quick hitters.
Texas, you see that. If they win that, they're on their way to the Cotton Bowl. You'll see it here on CBS on January 2nd. Taylor, Marshall, Moore, flanked out, 2nd and 6. Looks like they may be blitzing. The linebacker's coming. Give to Porter. A lot of congestion on that play. Lynn Madsen was there again. Madsen out of Vista, California. He was a defensive tackle last year, but they moved him inside because of his ability to run from sideline to sideline.
Very, very quick.
3rd and 4 now for Washington State. Well, Illinois, Mike White returning to his native state of California for the Rose Bowl. Boy, what a year they've had, huh? They're the only unbeaten team in the Big Ten, is that correct, that played a full schedule in the history of that conference. On a 3rd and 6. Turner, and separated from the football. Boy, what a job by Al Britton. Vince Layton, the tight end, the intended receiver. But coming over was Vince Albritton, the strong safety. A very timely hit.
Take a look at number 90, Ron Holmes. We've talked about him a little bit today. The strength, and he is an athlete. See how he makes a move, and then he's going to hit Ricky Turner after he throws the football. That's the kind of some of the punishment a quarterback takes after he releases the football that many fans don't see.
Back to kick on 4th down is Harper. 44-yard kick the last time. He's a Canadian from Edmonton. Quite a few players from north of the border on this team of Washington State. One reason is that Jim Walden played up there in the Canadian Football League and very familiar with their style.
They want to punt the ball into a boundary, Gary, to try to keep it away from Danny Green. He's a very effective punt returner, as you have said. Last week he had a big punt return against Southern Cal for a touchdown.
71 yards has been his longest. Really, that last play was complete, but the fumble out of bounds still was short of the first down. So the line of scrimmage is still about 4 yards short of the first down. Completion, but fumble, still short. Harper will kick. Coming up on the catch is Tony Alvarado, and Alvarado will be dropped short of the 35-yard line. Not a good punt. 30 yards in distance, a 4-yard return. Washington leads it 3-0. Their battle for the Rose Bowl.
College basketball returns to CBS Sports as Kansas takes on Hakeem Abdul-Olajuwon and the rest of Houston's Phi Slama Jama crew Saturday on CBS Sports.
Right behind that big man that just stepped in front of the camera is Skip Hall, the linebacker coach, talking to his Husky defense. Right now, the Husky offense is on the field. Stransky and Pattison, the wide receivers. New running backs now. Rick Finney and Ron Jackson have checked in. Ballure to throw. A flag on the play as Stransky makes the sliding catch very close to the first down, but a penalty flag to the 30-yard line. Steve Ballure, whose brother Scott played at Washington State. Let's see, his grandfather played there, his father played there.
His mother went there. She did not play there, but she went there.
And anyway, he elected to go to Washington.
He says they're Husky fans now, though.
At least for this game, huh? Holding is the preliminary signal against Washington, so that pass completion will come back.
One thing about the Husky pass attack, they set it up by running the football. Most of their passing comes off of play-action fakes. So the better they run the football, the better they're going to throw it.
Speaking of throwing, Ballure is completing 68% of his passes. That's a remarkable statistic.
Holding, offense, first down.
So now it's going to be 1st down and 20. Don James, who coached at Kent State for so many years,
1st and 20.
and has turned this Washington situation around. They've had a shift of power here in the Pac-10, up in the Great Northwest. Breaking out of there is Jackson. Jackson at the 40, 45, and Cookie Jackson is into the Washington State end of the field. Waters and Taylor ram him out. 33-yard gain by Jackson.
Don James says Cookie Jackson's a little bit more elusive than Sterling Hines, so he's going to use them both. A little draw action. They set it up a play earlier by running a pass off that play, but it hurt Cookie Jackson. Followed his lineman, a big hole there in the Washington State defense, then outran some people down the sideline for a big gain and a first down.
That's Washington's initial first down of this game. They scored, of course, after that turnover. It set it up at the 20-yard line. They lead 3-0. 45-yard line is the first down. Rick Finney, big freshman fullback. Joe Taylor eventually making the stop, and that's another Husky first down. Now, wait a minute. We may have a loose ball under all that humanity. Finney, one of the most sought-after players in the country a year ago. He, along with John Pay, who went to Stanford. And they're saying Washington State got it.
Rather emphatically,
yes,
I might
he
add.
is. They took a long time determining that fact, but underneath all that, the Cougars are able to come up with it.
Let's take another look at the big fullback. You mentioned Rick Finney. They like him. They say he has unlimited potential. There he still has the ball. He's bobbling a little bit. And he comes out right there.
Yep.
There it is on the ground. Number 76, Eric Williams is there, and 2, Gerald Walters made the recovery.
We'd be guessing. I guess you think it was Walters, huh, that got the ball?
He did come up off the bottom.
Okay. First down at the 33. They may have to go in the locker room to find out who got that one. So both teams now have turned the football over. Washington State, the best field position they've had. Give to Porter. Flag on the play, and Porter has 2 yards. Making the stop that time, Dean Browning, 99. His brother Dave playing now for the Los Angeles Raiders. Illegal procedure. I tell you, Pat, the weather, I don't care how much you play in it. Washington State has played in downpours the last 2 weeks. It still hurts your concentration.
And particularly when you're a quarterback, when you wake up in the morning.
Offense.
See the illegal procedure called. When you wake up in the morning as a quarterback and you look outside your window, you see it's raining like this. Believe me, it does affect you. No matter what the coaches say, they say, it's not going to bother us. They don't have to throw the ball.
You used to tell me when you were playing at USC, you hate to come up here. You always knew it was going to be wet and cold, huh?
It's always a downpour.
First and 15 after the 5-yard penalty. Ricky Turner. Nice shot that time, and it's complete. Bringing the ball out to the 41. John Marshall made the stop. It's still short of the first down. 11-yard pickup. Let's go back to New York. Here's Brent Musburger.
Gary, 1 second to go. Penn State must kick this field goal to tie Pittsburgh at 24. Nick Gazzitano's kick is up, and it is good. Pitt now will go to the Fiesta Bowl to play Ohio State. The Buckeyes have lost to Michigan. Michigan goes to the Sugar Bowl to play Auburn. Back to Gary and Pat.
Those old rivals, I bet that's the last thing one to have happen is end up in a tie, the way they struggle against each other. Second down now for Porter. Going to be short of the first down.
We've seen Washington State run that dive play 3 or 4 times now. We've yet to see them run the option play. This is something that Washington State is setting up. Jim Walden feels that you have to get the ball outside to win.
The 3rd and 1. Garnett and Meamber on the tackle that time. Clemson, they have been beating people, and I mean soundly, the last few weeks.
Very good football team.
That Air Force team, Ken Hatfield, you just got to really admire the job he's done.
The 2nd year in a row he's beaten Notre Dame.
They're on their way to a bowl. 3rd and 1 now for the Cougars. Meamber on a blitz up the middle. Porter, the ball is it loose? No, I guess he has it. Does he have the first down now is the other story. Ron Holmes making the stop. There is a penalty flag that's been thrown. Looked like for a moment he did not get the exchange from Turner. Going to be a delay of game, believe it or not, on a 3rd and 1, and is that a critical mistake by Washington State? So now you're going to have a 3rd and 6.
Here is 3rd and 1. They say they did not get the ball off in time, but they're going over the right side of the offensive line. I see the penetration there by number 90, Ron Holmes, he is in the backfield, and on 3rd and 1, it's so critical for the offensive line to prevent the defense from getting that kind of penetration.
Delay. Offense.
There's the man, Ron Holmes. They say when he gets a little bit stronger, he'll be like Superman. He's got everything going for him. He started to hit the weights a little more seriously. All he is 6'4", 245. Here we go, 3rd and 6 now after the penalty. No play as a penalty coming before the snap. Turner on a quarterback draw. I don't know if it was called, but that's what it ended up being.
I don't believe it was called. I think Ricky Turner scrambled out of the pocket a little earlier than he had to. And this was one of the concerns that Jim Walden had about Ricky Turner. Sometimes this year he has flushed out of the pocket before he's had to. Pretty good protection here for Ricky Turner. He should have set up. The man there is knocked down. Ricky Turner tried to scramble to get the most out of it, but it didn't pick up much.
Pat, that again is where that high tertsy has a tendency to take out before maybe he should. A kick by Harper. A catch by Green. And Green's forward progress will be somewhere around the 30-yard line. There's another penalty flag. That was only a 29-yard punt by number 1, Glenn Harper. Kurkowski was down there defending for Washington State. We have 2 brothers in this game.
2 sets of brothers.
That's right. The Lynches and the Kurkowskis. Lee Cook now, who's had to administer a lot of penalties in this early going. Illegal use of the hands against Washington.
I was just going to say before the penalty, though, that Washington was really getting the better of the field position battle.
So it's being explained to Don James. We're going to have a break in the action with 2:59 to go in this first quarter. Washington on top by 3. Gary Bender along with Pat Hayden. A rain-soaked Husky Stadium in Seattle. The Huskies, you can see, have 3 penalties, as does Washington State. A lot of problems mechanically in this first quarter with 2:59 remaining in it. Steve Plur. Going to tuck it and run, and he gets up the field 7, maybe 8 yards. Sterling Hines was over there as Mike Beasley and Rico Tipton make the tackle. And third quarter now, Illinois. Boy, Mike White, who used to coach here in the Pac-10, rolling. And there's a final now. Michigan defeated Ohio State. Game being played in Ann Arbor, and Steve Young, what a year he's having for BYU. Iowa beating up on Minnesota. And West Virginia, Syracuse, of course, last week upsetting BC. That's the game that Brent just updated for us. Penn State and Pittsburgh. Hunt and Hines are running backs. 2nd down and 2. Here's Hines. Washington State is there. Chappelle, 44, who has to be a little bit nervous. His first start today, replacing Cedric Brown at right cornerback, was up quickly to make that stop. It's 3rd down and 1.
There's a look at Erwin Chappelle. He's a freshman walk-on. Actually, Washington State has 3 walk-ons in their defensive secondary.
Well, looking ahead tomorrow, the NFL on CBS. Going to have a major interconference battle between the Vikings and Steelers. The Steelers really playing well without Terry Bradshaw. Vikings tied for the NFC Central lead. All starting the NFL tomorrow. On a 3rd down, a yard, they pick it up. Sterling Hines carrying the ball. Keith Millard making the stop.
You mentioned Don James was having more fun this year, Gary. He said this Washington team has played much closer to its potential. Last year he felt his team was out-competed many weeks, but this team has played very well and very effectively for him.
And he's had a lot more fun.
Probably been his best coaching job.
He lost 16 starters off of that club that in the preseason was picked to win it all. They were going to be the national champions, won their first 7, and then struggled down the end. Here's Puller over the middle. Batted around and intercepted. Intercepted at the 47-yard line. Tipton came up with it. A penalty flag, however, has been thrown.
Steve Plur gets very good protection, tries to set it up with a play-action fake. He never saw the linebacker, Rico Tipton, trying to lead, hit the ball, get the ball to Danny Green. Rico Tipton is 6'2", 225 pounds, just jumped up, made the interception. A big play for their defense.
Well, let's see what this penalty's all about.
There's another look at Rico Tipton. He did bobble a little bit, but did catch it. It's his first interception of the year. This Washington State linebacker team, and they have 3 of them who have played, have played much better than the Washington State staff had felt they would at the beginning of the year.
We've got a clip, however. That's 79, Milford Hodge.
Clipping on the return. Still first down.
But still, the Cougars had the ball. There's the man that clipped, trying to come back and help on the interception. Well, Pelluer has not thrown that many interceptions, 8 for the year. But on the other hand, Washington State as a team has thrown only 6 all year long.
That's Washington State's 21st interception of the year.
Ricky Turner has him now at the 37-yard line. First down. Porter. And Porter to the 40-yard line. We were talking earlier, Pat, about how Pelluer grips the football on a wet day. Let's see what Ricky Turner does.
Well, Ricky Turner told us that he actually does change his grip. Here's when the dry conditions, this is what his grip looks like. But on a wet day like today, when the ball gets slippery, he moves his forefinger up a little closer to the nose of the football to try to gain more control of the football when throwing it.
We should mention 2 of those fingers are sprained. He's had one swollen that's been bothering him thus far today. Seemingly okay, but they were concerned about him coming into this game. 2nd and 7. Turner on the option, and he's very close to a first down. Ron Holmes made the stop. It's going to be 3rd down and a yard to go. We have an update on West Virginia, Syracuse. Here's Brent.
Gary, it's a little razzle-dazzle here by Syracuse. Looks like a quick pop out there to the flanker, but Scott Schwades comes up throwing, and he hits Harold Gaydon. And this 58-yard pass sets up a touchdown. Syracuse leads West Virginia 7-3. Back to Gary and Pat.
Boy, the Orangemen of Syracuse playing much, much better football. You see the time left in the first quarter. 3rd down 1 now for the Cougars. Turner giving off to Calvin. Calvin has to fight for all of it, but he apparently has the first down. Stuart Hill there to make the stop. Calvin is one of the men that they didn't expect to have to play. But due to injuries, he's been pressed into a starting role, and he has responded.
Jim Walden calls him an unnationally known blue chip.
That's the kind of guy he recruits. He has to kind of project them to see how their development will be 2 or 3 years down the road. First down for the Cougars. Porter on the dive. Porter close to another first down as this first quarter has come to a close. Jim Rogers on the stop. Washington State on the move. They trail 3-0. The Huskies and Cougars locked up in the Apple Cup. A beautiful view here, but it's a very wet day. It's not an ideal day for football, and in the first quarter, both teams having a very difficult time establishing a rhythm. Numerous penalties, turnovers, and right now, as we start this second quarter, it's 2nd down 1 for Washington State. They trail 3-0, and Ricky Turner on a quarterback sneak has the first down for Washington State. Pat, one thing, Washington State has stuck to their game plan, the dive play, hitting it up the middle.
We said they've run it 60 times the last 3 games. They've run it a lot here today, and they're setting up the option play. We expect to see Ricky Turner coming down that line of scrimmage and optioning the ball off the dive play.
Pat, rhythm is so important in football. It's really right now, it's not there, is it?
It's been kind of a herky-jerky type of game, and I think the weather is affecting both quarterbacks.
One of those quarterbacks, Ricky Turner, has a first down just inside the Washington 40. Only said running back is Porter. Turner with time. The intended receiver was John Marshall, and a penalty flag, interference. Jim Rogers, 39, defending.
Many times in a game like this, when the weather's like this, a big pass interference play is such a critical mistake that can put you in position to score. Here, Ricky Turner throws the ball up. Really, John Marshall did not have a chance to catch this ball, and Jim Rogers, number 39, makes really a bad play in interfering on John Marshall.
Well, they said of Jim Rogers, he'd rather go after the receiver than the ball. He's really a wild man, a tough man, playing in that safety spot, but that time too aggressive.
Much too aggressive. That's a big, big play for this Washington State offense, which has had trouble establishing some rhythm.
So that amounts to a 28-yard penalty. First down just outside the 11-yard line for the Cougars, and Ricky Turner now wants a timeout. Nope, he wants to get the crowd quieted down. He could not hear. I did not think it was that noisy. But Turner now will be able to get the team rehuddle, come back and try to snap the ball again. This is a very tough thing to know what to do as a quarterback, Pat, I would imagine. Do you go ahead and bark the signals out over the crowd, or do you maybe get the crowd even riled up more by calling for this delay?
You're absolutely right. I think you're absolutely right in trying to get the ball snapped the first time up underneath the center, because when he breaks this huddle and gets up underneath the center the second time, there's even going to be more noise.
Okay, Turner, let's see if that was a wise decision. First down. Gives to Porter. Porter breaking some tackles. Forward progress inside the 7. Porter with that good body lean. That's the thing they kept telling us about number 30. He leans and gets all that strength he can.
Take a look at the center, Kurt Ladinas from Washington State, the kind of block that he gets and clears the way for Kerry Porter. That's why you're seeing Kerry Porter gain some of the yards that he has, because that up front, those guys like Ladinas and Flager and the offensive line have given him a little room to run.
Also credit Lynch on that last play. Second down now, 5. They're going to get a first and goal at about the 1. Here's Turner. Porter. Porter struggles to the 2. Jim Rogers is there. Porter's one of those guys, Pat, that always seems to fall forward and get a yard or 2 more.
And like you said, he's a big man, too. But here's the first time they've run the option where they pitch the ball. Again, when you dive the ball so much, you have to respect the dive. And after you start taking away the dive, then you pitch the ball to a guy like Kerry Porter, who makes a couple of guys miss. And he's a big man. He falls forward. And now they're going to measure for the first down.
It could be a first and goal, or it's going to be third down and very, very short yardage.
I was impressed with the way Kerry Porter kept his feet there, because he's playing on a very wet turf. And you saw him very gingerly make a cut and make a guy miss.
They have a first and goal. First and goal just outside the 1. Tobacco chewing Jim Walden. He was a coach for Bob Devaney in Nebraska. Went down to Miami, Florida with Bump Elliott, Carl Selmer. Came to Washington State in 1976. Right now, his Huskies are trying to make it 2 years in a row that they would keep Washington from the Rose Bowl. 3-0, Washington. Give, and Calvin's in, touchdown. The first touchdown of the year for number 32. Richard Calvin, a freshman out of Santa Ana, California. He's been an unbelievable find as far as Jim Walden is concerned.
Diamond in the rough.
John Trout attempt the point after. Trout very easily puts it through. That was a 63-yard drive by these Cougars of Washington State.
Let's take a look at the touchdown. Richard Calvin, a little trap play. They ran the dive earlier. He follows the block of number 58, Dan Lynch. Everybody on the Washington defense felt that Kerry Porter was going to get the ball, but their number 32, Calvin, gets it. One look. Look at the left guard there. 58, Dan Lynch, as he leads the way for Calvin. But this drive culminated right here in the touchdown because of some option plays. They ran the ball down the line of scrimmage. Turner got the ball to the outside on the pitch, and you saw a couple of dives. And that was the culmination. We'll be back.
Great holiday action upcoming on CBS Sports. Friday, Walter Lewis leads Alabama against Doug Flutie and Boston College. Saturday, our coverage of college basketball tips off with Kansas against Houston, followed by a football classic, Nebraska and Oklahoma. It all begins Thanksgiving Day with the St. Louis Cardinals against the Dallas Cowboys on CBS Sports.
Washington State band all the way from Pullman, Washington, about a 4.5-hour drive. Team bussed over here yesterday. And that last drive, Washington State has found something that's worked.
They found a little rhythm. We saw them run the dive with Porter. That set up a couple of option plays where Turner came down the line and kept the ball. Then we saw him pitch it once to Porter. And then when everybody thought that Porter was going to get the ball, they ran a trap play to Richard Calvin. Good play selection by Jim Walden and his staff.
They're mixing it up. Drop to kickoff. Back deep, Lonzo Hill and Ron Jackson for the Huskies. And again, no return. This league has the finest field goal kickers of any conference.
Saw a couple of them last week.
Yes, sir. Well, basketball is now starting to edge into the picture, and the Kansas Jayhawks under new coach Larry Brown against the Houston club, the Phi Slamma Jamma people. Hakeem Abdul-Olajuwon, exciting basketball team, and that's a fine way to start our basketball coverage this year. Saturday, November 26th. The Cougars against the Jayhawks, 1 o'clock Eastern.
Phi Slamma what?
Phi Slamma Jamma. Got one of those T-shirts. From the 20 now, the Huskies, they're looking for something that's going to work for them. Coming out of there, Ron Jackson, who had the long run earlier at 33 yards. Blankney made the stop. There's Calvin, man that is what you call a true freshman. He just came in on campus and now a starter at fullback, should say running back. Texas getting a little bit closer to that January 2nd Cotton Bowl date. And Illinois, well, they're already going to the Rose Bowl, and they're beating up on Northwestern. Pat, let's talk a little bit about Steve Pelluer now in Washington. I get the feeling that they still haven't found the right combination.
Well, as we said earlier, their running game sets up their passing game. They run a lot of play-action type of passes. They just have not been able to develop a type of rhythm. Actually, they've had 4 possessions here in the first half so far. The longest they've held on the ball is only for 1 minute and 25 seconds.
And remember, they scored after a turnover, so they haven't really sustained anything. They trail now 7-3. Pelluer off to Jackson. Breaks one tackle, but they're in a hurry. Help arrive. Tracy Atkins, number 22. This is a guy that Jim Walden said, we just love to coach him. He likes to play the game. We like to have him around.
Another one of those walk-ons in the defensive secondary of Washington State. There's a look at Don James. I think the longer their team allows this Washington State team to play with them, the more difficult Washington is going to have in developing a rhythm offensively.
Signaling the plays in. It'll be 3rd and 10 now for Washington. Last year, the Cougars upset Washington 24-20. 1 of 3 on 3rd downs thus far as the Huskies. This time wide open is Ron Jackson. Jackson trying to get to the first down. He will not make it. Lee Blankney, 96, made a fine open field tackle. He's the guy that the Washington staff kept talking about. Blankney this, Blankney that. He really is tough.
And he made a very nice tackle there. But look at the defensive secondary. It is 3rd and 10. They're going to give these Washington receivers plenty of room underneath as long as they don't get 10 yards for the first down. Forces Pelluer to go underneath the coverage to his back, Jackson, but he's not going to pick up 10 yards. Good defensive scheme by Washington State.
Blankney has led them in tackles as a freshman and sophomore, was out last year with an injury. Back to kick, Thane Cleland. And going back deep to receive it will be Kiprick Taylor. Short kick, very short, and it's going to take a Washington State bounce, and they're going to have the ball at the Huskies' 45-yard line. Only a 20-yard kick. And so the weather continues to affect the field position. Well, it's been raining most of the day, and we notice now the wind is starting to pick up, blowing off of this beautiful area, the Union Bay area, Lake Washington surrounding Husky Stadium. After a poor kick by Washington, the Cougars of Washington State with a 7-3 lead have it at the 45 of Washington. Turner to Porter, the workhorse. He's been getting the ball as many as 30 times a game, and it's going to end up that way today at this pace.
And that's unusual for a Jim Walden type of team. He doesn't like to give the ball to one running back like he has this year, but he's been forced to do that because of injuries.
He told us that probably Porter will gain more yardage this year than he will any other because they'll try to balance it up more in the next 2 years.
Don't tell Kerry that.
No gain on that last play. 2nd and 10. 3 wide outs. Porter the only running back. He gives to Porter, and Porter runs into congestion again. Madsen is there. Madsen's really been anchoring himself in, and he's had that challenge to stop the dive. It'll be a 3rd down and 8 now for Washington State.
Washington's going to have to find a way to stop the dive play, and here's one way. Watch number 42, the linebacker, Timmy Amber. He is the recognized leader on this team. He's right there in the middle of the screen. He steps up into the little gap right there, takes on the linebacker, fights off him, gives him help from some of his teammates. Really, Lynn Madsen, the nose guard, really put the first hit on him.
Some of his teammates, I think all 11 of them were in on that one. There's Meamber, the very important cog to that defense. 3rd down, 8 yards. Thus far, Washington State 1 of 4 on 3rd down conversion. That's Marshall in motion. Porter with a football. And Porter will be short of the first down. Madsen again on this stop. Also Ron Holmes. Big people up front of Browning, Madsen, and Holmes. And now coming in will be Harper. They're too far away for the field goal attempt. Trout this year's longest has been 49 yards. Harper will kick, and he's been struggling. He's averaging a little over 34 yards a punt. There he is. Green goes back for the Huskies. Going for the corner. And he didn't get quite what he wanted, but it's pretty effective. It's at the 13-yard line. They're kicking away from Danny Green. They really respect him. 25-yard kick, but very strategically placed. Well, Pat, are you ready for Thanksgiving? I know I'm going to eat some turkey, but we're also going to have a lot of sports coming your way. Starting on Friday, November 25th, Ray Perkins in Alabama, the Tide against Boston College and Doug Flutie. That could be a high-scoring game. And then moving to Norman, Oklahoma. Pat and I will be there for Nebraska, Oklahoma. The Huskers are on their way what they hope is a national championship. And some of you will see a very, very interesting game, Arizona against Arizona State. First down at the 13. Pallure to Sterling Hines. Hines out to the 17. Pat Lynch making the stop of the Lynch brothers. Both Pat and his brother Dan this week were voted to the All Pac-10 academic team as you look at Hines.
Also, two of the members of the Washington offensive front were named to that same team. Dennis Mayer, a tackle, and Dan Ernestine, the center, made the All Pac-10 academic team. Congratulations to them.
Good student athletes. 2nd and 6. Pallure gets it out to Walt Hunt. And Hunt, with that last effort, may have gotten the first down and did. Tracy Atkins made the stop, but Walt Hunt, who is an overachiever, according to Coach Don James.
We've talked about how Washington sets up their pass with the run. We saw Hines with a big run earlier. There's the fake to the Hines. Pallure rolls out and dumps the ball off to his fullback in the flat. Good play-action fake, which held the linebackers, allowed Hunt to sneak out into the flat for the catch.
On a first down, here's Hines again. Hines, who hopes to be running for the Canadian team in the Olympics in '84. Carrillo and Williams were there. And Jim Walden said that our forward wall defensively is as good as anybody in the conference, and they're playing that way right now. Going to bring up 2nd down, virtually 10. Stransky comes split to the bottom, and Patterson goes to the top of the screen for the Huskies. Pallure with pressure. And he's going to be sacked at the 21. Eric Williams is there. Boy, what a combination. They're like bookends, Williams and Millard. 3rd and 14 now.
Well, Millard flushed Pallure out of there, and Eric Williams was there to make the sack. You're right, a very good bookend. The best front in the Pac-10, he said.
Well, they're roommates. They're very different in their style of play and their interests, but they're just as effective on the field. He's a power player, number 76 is, out of Stockton, California. From the 21, 3rd and 14. Pallure with time, delivers to Patterson. That's going to be way short of the first down. Joe Taylor, the strong safety, really popped him. 4th down. Washington will send Thane Cleland back to punt. As you look at Patterson, the junior out of Seattle, averaging 38 yards a kick is Cleland. Taylor back deep for Washington State. Big rush. Oh, they almost got it. Going to take a Husky bounce, and inside the 40 is where Washington State will claim it. Kittrick Taylor getting on the ball, a 33-yard kick. And right now, the Cougars are getting the better of it. They're leading. That's the time that's left in this first half. Washington, Pat, very interestingly, have not panicked. They're just kind of playing it close to the vest, not trying to make any more mistakes.
And characteristic of that man right there, Don James. He'll wait his turn, believe me.
Field possession, we're going to look at it in a moment. That's been the story. Neither team kicking the ball well. Play action by Ricky Turner. Lots of time running around, and this time he is really put down by Lynn Madsen, who tried to take his head off. He wasn't small enough on that play. Now here's the field position, Pat.
We talked about it's been really a game of defense and field position. Washington State has not had terrific field position, as you can see. It really converted a turnover. But other than that, it's been a long way to go. And here's Washington's. As you can see, it's not much better there, and they have not done anything really with their possessions of the football.
Well, they got the field goal on the turnover. Remember also, Washington State had a very timely penalty to set up their touchdown, a 28-yard pass interference. Turner back on second and long yardage, and that ball is caught. What a catch by Mike James. First down, 23-yarder. Here's a guy who's a decathlete.
Top of the screen, Mike James. Ricky Turner drills this ball in here. He has no fear of going over the middle as he does here. The ball is a little bit low, but Mike James is there to equal to the task. Goes down and catches the ball underneath the free safety for a big play and a first down.
His brother, a track performer at Washington State. As said earlier, his other brother, Chris, was the starting fullback last year for the Huskies. The state really has some intertwining of families and relationships. First down now. Richard Calvin. Calvin maybe got back to the line of scrimmage. Ron Holmes was over there to intercept him.
It's a little bit of a surprise to me that Washington State has not run a little bit more of the option where they brought Turner down and pitched the ball. We saw them effective on the one drive where they scored in doing so.
Jim Walden was very sensitive about that. He told us we don't like to be known as an option team, more of a multiple offense type.
He says the first thing his quarterback has to do is be able to throw the football.
Second down, 9 for the Cougars. That's James in motion. Porter's got an alley to the 25, 20. He'll take it to the 12. And there is that quarter-miler speed. The man who won the state in the 440. He's over 100 yards now for the day.
Jim Walden must have listened to me because this is exactly what happened. We saw Ricky Turner from above pitch the ball to Kerry Porter. Gets a nice lead back block from Richard Calvin, his other back. You see bursts in the open, and there's number 6, the strong safety Albitron, to save a touchdown.
Boy, that long stride netted him 29 yards.
But again, getting Ricky Turner on the corner where he can pitch the football, that's where he's most effective.
15 carries, 101 yards for the sophomore from Montana. Here he goes again. He's to the 5. He is cut. Second down. Dean Browning is there. This guy was a number 3 fullback at the start of the year. And there's what he's done thus far, and we're still in the first half.
He does a little bit of everything. He also plays the cello. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that. I knew that Ernestine was a man who was a concert pianist. A lot of talent out there.
They sure do. Very musical.
Double tight end alignment. Second down, 4. They could get a first and goal at the 1. Get back to Calvin. Amber, 42, stops him. It's going to be about a yard short, it appears, of a first and goal. Tim Amber was out with some injury problems, and they really missed him.
Gary, we saw the same type of game last week when we had UCLA and Arizona. One team with everything to gain in UCLA, and Arizona with nothing to lose. We had the same type of situation here today. So far here in the first half, Washington State seems to want it a little bit more, even though Washington has more at stake.
Number 92 is checked in. See, Garnett has come in. 5 defensive linemen up front. Here we go. 3rd and 1. Well, they're going to have to get the sticks out on that one. Ricky Turner, not a very big man. He weighs maybe 175, and Jim Walden wants to know, did we get the first and goal? And this man just as much concerned about that issue, and they're going to bring the sticks in. That's where you need about a 6'4", 230-pound quarterback. What we will have, if it's not far enough, would be 4th down and inches. Would you kick the field goal?
I think this early in the game, yes, you do.
And they're short. Well, they have a fine kicker. Of course, that's the whole story of this Pac-10. They're going to bring him on. Nope, they're going to talk about it. So Jim Walden will discuss the issue. He uses his first timeout. Washington State in an upset mode right now. They lead at 7-3, and a decision is coming up. Washington State talking it over. Do they go for it, or do they kick the field goal? And the indications are they're going to go for it. Now, this team, Pat, is a left-handed team. They like to run left behind Lynch and Flager.
Although the last time down here, they went to the right on the touchdown to Calvin.
So Trout, who has set a school record for field goals this year for Washington State, will not be called on. The Cougars leading 7-3, and let's watch. They have a 1st and goal, now touchdown, a late signal touchdown, Calvin. Touchdown of the day for Richard Calvin. So the gamble pays. John Trout, point after. John Trout down the middle with it. 14-3, Washington State with the lead.
Their first score was over the right side. Their second score to Richard Calvin right over the left side. As you predicted, Gary, over the left tackle, Charlie Flager, number 60. You can see Calvin into the end zone. This is the culmination of a drive where we saw the big option play where Ricky Turner came down the line and pitched the ball to Kerry Porter. We picked up the big gain. They ran a dive a couple times, a couple of option plays. Ricky Turner carried the ball once, and here is the culmination, 6 points. Richard Calvin over Charlie Flager, the left tackle.
And I think that's a good point. Both times they looked for Porter and they gave it to number 32, and he scored on both occasions. The find, as they call him, in Pullman, Washington. You know, it's a startling statistic in this first half. Washington State has had the ball over 17 minutes. Washington less than 9. And this is a concern, Don James. Can history repeat itself? 2 years in a row, can the Cougars stop them from going to Pasadena? First down, Washington State with 10. Washington only with 3. It's been domination, really. John Trout kicking off. See no return at the 20. The Huskies will have it. Now let's take this opportunity on a very traditional day. A lot of big traditional rivalries in college football to look at some of them. See what's happened back east. Boy, that's kind of surprising.
Boy, Virginia has been playing well all year.
Now North Carolina, they lost 3 in a row. They're trying to beat Duke. There's a battle that every year is a tough, fierce struggle. Mississippi, they've really played well this year under Brewer, their new coach. Temple winning their game, and there's the Ivy League. And now we come back at the 20-yard line. The Huskies in a catch-up situation. Fuller giving off to Sterling Hines. He'll get a couple. Blakeney will make the stop, and we'll go back to the scoreboard and the game.
Look at that.
Rick Lasavita, our producer, is dancing with glee in our truck at this particular time.
Isn't that amazing?
That was the 100th game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it sure was. Those Harvard guys are aloof, though. He told me that Yale didn't have much to offer this year. 100th anniversary.
There's our director, Bob Fishman's alma mater winning. Big. The Terriers. Oh, what we have to put up with each week. 2nd down and 8. It's complete to Danny Green, and Green fighting for the first down. Very close to it. Line of scrimmage, very close to the 30, and that's where they needed to get. UCLA, of course, they're very much interested in the outcome of this game. If Washington loses and UCLA maintains that lead, they're back in the Rose Bowl. The Bruins would be. Come all the way through the season, come to the final game, and still don't know who's going to Pasadena.
It was a first down run that time, or catch, I should say. Here's Pelluer giving to Hines. Hines for 5 to the 35. 2:40 left in the first half. Sellout crowd here at Husky Stadium. Gary Bender along with Pat Hayden. It's been raining throughout this day. It's a game that means the Rose Bowl or the Aloha Bowl possibly for this Washington team. They trail now 14-3. Sterling Hines on a 2nd and 5 gets 2 of them. And again, Pat, they're in no real hurry, are they? Washington, maybe many people think, will start throwing the ball trailing like they are. 3rd and 3.
But with 2 minutes left in the football in the first half, I think it's very important that Washington get on the football trailing 14-3. It would be a big lift for them going into halftime. Something they're really going to need because this offense has been struggling.
Oh boy, Baylor has a super offense. And Texas now only leading by 3. Brandon Era at halftime will have a lot of scores and highlights. Pelluer back. Complete. That is Leroy Lutu, the tight end. That's a first down catch.
And the first time we've seen the Washington tight end being part of the offense, the Washington tight ends, there are 3 of them that have played, have caught 55 passes this year. That was the 56. So their tight end is a big part of their offense, and they're looking for him here in critical situations.
Lutu, a native of Honolulu. He was a Hawaiian Prep Athlete of the Year his senior year. First down at the 45. Washington with now 1:41. They have all their timeouts left. Pelluer back to Lutu again. And Lutu to the 47 of Washington State. Jim Krakowski, a freshman, a brother who's playing also a linebacker for Washington. They are not huddling up. They have another play ready to go. 2nd down and 2, a long 2. Pelluer will kill the clock with a completion to Danny Green. And that'll be enough for a first down likewise.
In last week's game against Southern Cal, Steve Pelluer got the ball to Danny Green with no time really virtually remaining in the first half. Danny Green took the pass 39 yards for a touchdown and a 10-0 lead at halftime. He is their big play man, Danny Green.
He certainly is. He's made the big plays, and they need one now out of Compton, California. He and Ricky Turner were high school teammates there. I think he was a quarterback, and Turner was a wide receiver at one time. On the 44, Pelluer trying to use his remaining time of 1:08. Rambling out of there. Hunt closest to the football. Elkington, Sonny Elkington over there defending, number 37. With 1:04. Pelluer figuring he's still got a lot of time to do something. There's Elkington. He's quite a javelin tosser. He qualified for the finals this year in the NCAA. You know, another javelin thrower is Terry Bradshaw at one time. He had the high school record. Green, Stransky, Patterson, 3 wideouts for this man, Steve Pelluer. Green goes in motion. Complete to Patterson, and he'll be swarmed under. Blakeney was there first, and Jim Walden's defense covering a lot of ground out there.
Well, they're protecting a 14-3 lead. Watch how much cushion they are giving this Washington offense. The defensive secondary is playing deep in a 2nd and 10 situation. They do not want to give up a big play or a first down. They force Washington to go underneath the coverage, give the ball to Patterson. He catches the ball, but really for only about 4 yards.
So Washington asked for a timeout. They have 2 left. 2 outstanding institutions. I'd like to show you one of the campuses representing these 2 schools. Well, a look at Washington State from Palouse country. Over there in Pullman, Washington, the eastern part of the state. That's Leroy Lutu, the tight end. They're looking him over. He caught a couple of passes on this drive. Now, here's the situation. The Huskies have 2 timeouts remaining. They have a 3rd down 7. The line of scrimmage, the 41-yard line. 52 seconds left in the first half. Pelluer's got a convoy in front of him. And he's inside the 30 and gets out of bounds. First down.
Well, Steve Pelluer set up his blocks like any good running back there. You see him waiting for the blocks to occur, and then give it a little burst for the first down. Here's the defensive secondary again. It's 3rd and 7. They're trying to protect the lead and the big play. A good call by Washington as they roll Pelur out to put some run-pass pressure on the Washington State defense. Watch Pelur as he picks up a block there. He just threads his way through a couple of defenders, spins and turns for a big first down.
He got out of bounds. He did everything he wanted to do. There's the kicker that they would call on, Jeff Jagger. There's the time remaining. They have 2 timeouts left, and now Washington asks for another timeout. They have 1 remaining. Well, we visited Washington State, and now let's take a look at the University of Washington here in Seattle. Boy, what a gorgeous setting that is here in Seattle. Jeff Jagger has kicked a field goal of 52 yards, not only once, but twice this year. He's one of these guys that came out of nowhere, out of Kent, Washington, replaced Chuck Nelson, the greatest kicker in the history of the school.
What a find. He only kicked 6 balls last year in high school. Here he is kicking for the University of Washington.
Well, his high school team was 1-8. They didn't need very many field goals. All right, here we go. First down, 1 timeout remaining for Washington. 2 wideouts at the top of the screen. Pelur. Stransky at the 20, fumbled. And Washington State's got it. Joe Taylor hit Stransky. Chappelle, 44, was quickly on the football.
All Dave Stransky was trying to do was catch this ball and get out of bounds, give his team a chance to kick a field goal before halftime. You're going to see the ball come out as he's hit by Joe Taylor, the strong safety, who really is a ferocious hitter. The ball pops out there. There's nobody there, no Washington players to make the recovery. But there's 44, Erwin Chappelle, the freshman, walk-on to make the recovery. Big recovery for Washington State.
2 turnovers now by this Washington Husky team. Make that 3 turnovers. And the line of scrimmage now the 23, and the Cougars will just kill the remaining time.
Washington had 5 turnovers last week. Don James was very, very concerned about it. They've had 3 here in the first half. Don James is going to have to get that corrected at halftime.
That last fumble, so interesting. I don't think a lot of people could believe the ball was on the turf there. The thoughts, I think, in this first half is that Washington State's game plan is working. What about Washington, though?
They're running that dive play, as you said, setting up the option. Washington's offense still has not developed a rhythm.
And so the rhythm, they'll try to find it at halftime. The score at halftime, 14-3 in favor of Washington State. We'll be back with Brendan Era from New York with scores and highlights after this word about an upcoming show on CBS and a message from your local station. 14-3 at halftime. And Pat, in that first half, Washington State doing what they wanted to do. That was run the ball effectively.
And that's what Kerry Porter's been the story. He's had over 100 yards in the first half, mostly on dives and a couple of big option plays.
He has his 6th straight 100-yard day. But probably the thing that was most impressive was how effective they were on the option. Ricky Turner to Porter.
And this was set up earlier in the first half as Washington State ran dive after dive. Finally, they came outside. He pitches the ball to Kerry Porter right there. He's going to get a nice block from his lead back. Right there, he gets a block from his receiver. He hits the gap, Kerry Porter does, turns on the juice. It's only a saving tackle, really, that prevents a touchdown.
That was a 29-yard run by the sophomore from Great Falls, Montana. And what it has done also is it's kept some ball possession for him, but Washington, on the other hand, has not been able to establish their running game.
Well, it's a good point, too, and we mentioned the first half that Washington sets up their pass by running the football effectively. They've done that all year long. The first half, they did not run the ball well. It's put more pressure on their quarterback, Steve Pelur.
It's forced him to throw, and Pelur has not had the kind of first half he'd like to have, and there's been 3 very big turnovers in the first half by this Washington team. But probably, Pat, the biggest one was just before the end of the first half.
You're absolutely right, because Washington had some momentum going here. They were down 14-3. They were looking for a score. They had the ball deep in Washington State territory. Here's the pass from Pelur to his flanker, Stransky. All he is trying to do is get the ball out of bounds and stop the clock. The ball comes loose, and the Washington State team there is to make a big recovery on the turnover.
And so the big story here is, can history repeat itself? Last year, Washington State defeated Washington and kept them from Pasadena. And they're in that same position to do the same thing, 2nd consecutive year in a row. We'll be back with the second half in just a moment.
If you think ColecoVision plays all Atari cartridges...
You mean it can't?
Here's Pac-Man on ColecoVision. But here's Pac-Man on the Atari 5200 Super System.
Now you're talking.
And it doesn't work on ColecoVision.
But won't Jungle Hunt?
Not with real arcade graphics.
Ms. Pac-Man?
This Ms. plays only on the Atari 5200 Super System. And now there's an adapter.
For 2,600 games?
Nearly 300 2,600 games.
Super.
System, now with a $30 rebate and Pac-Man from Atari.
Washington State versus the University of Washington. An exclusive presentation of CBS Sports is sponsored by Chevrolet. America is on the move, and Chevrolet is supplying the wheels. Chevrolet and you taking charge. Sentry. For all your insurance needs, you can count on your local Sentry agent, where all's well, even when all isn't. And by AC Delco, General Motors Corporation. AC Delco is the way to go.
Oh, what a view of the great Northwest. Seattle, the surrounding mountains, the setting for this game, as the Washington Huskies might find themselves in some real trouble here today, because even though Washington State is leading, look at this. They have been a second-half team in the stretch drive.
They have really been strong in these last 4 games that they've won, as you can see by the graphic there.
So Washington State, who has won 4 in a row coming in here, and Jim Walden said it so well. He said, if we can win today, win 7 games, it will show everybody how much our program has grown.
Interesting choice Don James made here the second half. Now, he had the choice of whether receiving or kicking off. He's elected to take the win, kick off, and play defense first, hopefully forcing Washington State to punt the ball after 3 plays and get good field position for his offense.
There is Mike James, who will be receiving the kickoff. Do you like that theory? Do you like that strategy?
Well, the way his offense is playing is struggling right now, yes, so it's not a bad theory.
And so that ball will go out of the back, and they'll set it up the 20-yard line. Let's look at the key people now for Washington State.
Quarterback Ricky Turner has played so well running the option. He's also completed 4 of 5 passes for 37 yards. There's Kerry Porter, had that big first half, 16 carries, 107 yards. And we saw 1 touchdown run right over that young man, Charlie Flager, the left tackle.
Flager, the strength of that offensive line. They played, according to Jim Walden, just like he expected them to. Very well. From the 20 now, the Cougars with a 14-3 lead. They're the obstacle between Washington and Pasadena right now. Turner. Scrambling around, cuts it against the grain. Gets away from Stuart Hill and slides to the 24. That's a lot of running for a 3-yard pickup. All right, some of the key people now defensively for the Washington Huskies.
Well, we talked a lot about that young man, Ron Holmes. He got 8 tackles in the first half. Stuart Hill, we saw him just chase Ricky Turner. He had 2 assists in the first half. Joe Krakowski in the middle. He had 3 assists. Did not play as well as we had hoped, or what we thought. Emmy Amber, he was a big player in the first half with 6 tackles.
Gain of 3, second down, 7. LeBom is now into the backfield. Didn't know if he'd play or not today for Washington State. A pass, a completion. What a catch by James. That's 2 excellent catches by James today. That's an 11-yard pickup on the play. First down. Now, we told you the other game that concerns the Rose Bowl is being played in the Coliseum, and USC has taken the lead. 7-6. That game, you never know what to expect.
Well, USA has not played well all year, but it certainly means a lot. To be a big win for Ted Tolner to beat UCLA.
Well, they would avoid their first losing season since 1961 if they could do that. First down for the Cougars from the 34-yard line. 3 wideouts on this play. Porter, maybe a yard or 2. Krakowski was there to lead the charge defensively, along with Meamber, the inside linebackers.
We see Washington State coming out here in their first possession in the second half. We've seen Ricky Turner roll out and throw the football. We've also seen him run the dive play that they ran so well in the first half. Washington is going to have to make some adjustments and stop that dive. The problem with that is then you might give up the option play on the outside.
I think it's happened here, Pat. The rain has stopped. It's not raining right now. The field drying out a little bit better. Started out, it was raining very steadily. 4 wideouts now on this play. Only set running back is Porter. Turner on the option. Crosses the 40 to the 42-yard line. He'll be 3 yards short of the first down. Madsen making the stop for the Huskies. It'll be 3rd down 3. We thought maybe Turner wouldn't play as much today, but he's done the job.
And he's played well. Watch him run this option, the reverse pivot. It's just a counter option. Gets his timing down. He's looking right at the option man. Decides to keep the football. Puts a little move there on Ron Holmes, number 90. Picks up 4 or 5 yards. But this is the dilemma that Washington defense faces. He either decide to defend the dive play or the option. It's been very difficult.
That's surprising. Washington State only 1 of 6 on 3rd down conversions. And here's one now. Turner to Porter, and he is greeted immediately that time. Kurkowski, you mentioned he wasn't maybe playing as well as you expected in the first half, but he's been a factor already in the second half. The two brothers, Kurkowski, Jim and Joe. To kick the football will be Glenn Harper, averaging 32.3. Field position so important in this game. Danny Green back deep for the Huskies. A low kick. Green at the 25. Good coverage by the Cougars. 36-yard punt, and now offensively, let's look at some key people for the Huskies.
Steve Floor had to throw the ball more in the first half than he would have liked. His 10 of 14, 64 yards and 1 interception. Sterling Hines did not have the big first half, only 9 carries for only 20 yards. Danny Green, he's their big play man. They're going to have to find a way to get him the ball. Had 2 catches for only 11 yards in the first half.
Making a big plays. Washington needs one from the 27-yard line. First down, trailing 14-3. Here's Hines, who you mentioned was bottled up in that first half. Keith Millard was there. Speaking of Millard, let's look at the defensive keys for the Cougars.
There's a good look at Keith Millard. Had a big first half, really pressured Floor a couple times, had 1 tackle. Another look at Eric Williams. Between he and Millard, they played very well inside, taking away that run. And Lee Blakely had 6 tackles in the first half.
Second down, 8 for the Huskies. Blur on a roll. In trouble. And hit hard, fumbled the ball. Did he get it back? He tried to grab it and bring it back to his person at the 30-yard line. Let's see. Kurkowski. That's the other Kurkowski. James is over there. And he was able to recover his own fumble.
We mentioned Don James decided to kick off and play defense in the first series, hoping to get good field position. It did not work out for him, as we saw this drive start down about the 20-yard line. So it was not a good choice for Don James in the second half. There's the replay of the fumble. You see Washington recover.
Very alertly, Pelluer recovered his own fumble. 3rd down and 6 now. Dropped. That's Patterson. Washington dropping some passes, fumbling 1 other completion before the end of the first half. On 4th down, Washington will have to punt the football. Now USC's added to their advantage, adding a field goal. What are they expecting? Around 90,000 for that game in the Los Angeles Coliseum.
Yeah, regardless of the records.
Bang Cleveland to kick to this man. That's Kittrick Taylor. Boy, he hit that one. Oh, did he hit that one? That's the best kick of the day. Here is Taylor looking for help. And he's dropped at the 23-yard line. Fine kick that time. Taylor gets it out to the 23. That was a 54-yard kick. The Cougars lead it. Don James, he'd like to return to the Rose Bowl for the 3rd time in 4 years. But right now, his team trailing 14-3 at the 10:31 mark of the 3rd quarter. Washington State with the ball after that fine 54-yard kick. And Turner will lose a yard or 2 on that play. Pat, one thing we should mention is that Don James all year long, in concern of what this man could do, number 12, the option, worked 1 day a week on it, all season long.
Every Monday, he spent a little bit of time defending the option. Remember, the Pac-10 conference is a passing conference. You don't see the option run much. So that was the concern that Don James had, waiting for this game at the end of the season and for the Rose Bowl bid.
But the option has been effective just the same. Loss of 2, 2nd and 12. Don LeBon in the backfield, number 21. He's been having a lot of problems with an ankle. Turner. Nice play by J.C. Pearson. Had he not been there, Kittrick Taylor was wide open.
Yes, but J.C. Pearson had a chance to pick off that football, and that's the defense is going to have to do it because Washington's offense has been struggling all football game. The defense is going to have to come up with some plays. Yes, it's good coverage by the Washington defense, but J.C. Pearson had an opportunity to help his team, help his offense by picking that ball off. It would have been a tough catch, but had an opportunity.
Pearson had 2 interceptions last week against USC. That time couldn't hang on. A junior college transfer came in the fall and got into the starting lineup. That's unusual. Usually you got to come in the spring off of a junior college campus. 3rd and 12. Porter out to the 24, and Washington State very conservative on that 3rd down.
Well, on 3rd down, they have been on just about every down because they've been running the football with a great deal of success.
And so 4th down, and the play selection.
Only 6 passes there by Washington State. Actually, some passes that have been effective, but 37 rushes, some dives, some sprint outs, and some option runs by Porter.
It's been the Kerry Porter show in that first half. Danny Green will receive the punt from number 1, Harper. Low snap. Boy, he recovered well, didn't he? Kicked it extremely well. Green at the 29-yard line. Green up the middle. He may go to the 30. And he's dropped at the 20. Green is hurt.
Washington special teams had to come up with a big play to get their team back in the football game. That's exactly what Danny Green did, just as he did last week, returning the punt 71 yards for a touchdown against Southern Cal. Right up the gut, breaks a couple of tackles, turns on the juice, but it is Washington State's punter, number 1, Glenn Harper, who puts a saving stop on Danny Green, really prevented the touchdown. Here's another look at Glenn Harper. He knows he's the only man there. He is outmanned. Green has much greater speed. Green actually ran right into him. Harper's there to make the play and end the save.
53-yard return by Danny Green. He was like a powder keg. You expected him to explode at any moment. He's now down, and he has time and again made the big play when Washington's needed it, and they needed one right now.
Well, that is the sixth big play that he's come by in the last 5 games. You can take another look. Like we said last week, he did it. He just turned on the juice, picks his way right up the middle. The Washington State punt return team had overrun it. As you watch Green turn on the juice here, very good speed, picks up another nice block there by his free safety. And there's the kicker, the punter, Glenn Harper. Couldn't avoid him.
Hard to see where he got hurt. But right now, he is still down at the 21-yard line. Harper's probably saying, hey, I don't want to do that anymore. You guys stop him up front. I'm just punting the ball. I'm not a tackler. So Green making the play, and it again shows you, Pat, that Don James, very patient with his offense, trying to wait for something to happen, and maybe this is the catalyst that his team needs.
Well, when your offense can't do it, as we look at a very pained Danny Green, and when your offense can't do it, your special teams or your defense has to do it. We saw J.C. Pearson, the defensive back of Washington, had an opportunity to intercept the ball a few moments ago, didn't do that, but Danny Green turned the trick, and special teams came up with a big play.
Green is up and walking, and that's good to see. To give Washington their best field position of the game, and there's the final. Texas beating Baylor. And they're on their way to the Cotton Bowl. SMU to the Sun Bowl. SMU, the Mustangs, with only 1 loss. Michigan over Ohio State. Boy, Brigham Young is just, they lost Gordon Hudson, their tight end, but they just moved on today, didn't they?
Yeah, Steve Young can find a lot of receivers to throw the ball to.
The 53-yard return has set the Huskies up at the Washington State 19-yard line. Patterson in motion. Sterling Hines. Hines to the 15. Eric Williams made the stop. That was a fine fake that time by Pallure. He had to wait to see if he in fact kept it or gave it to Hines.
This is a big opportunity for this Washington offense. We mentioned how they've struggled here in the first half. They finally got some excellent field position. They need really to get in the end zone with 7 points.
Rico Tipton shaken up on the play. He comes out. There's that efficiency inside the 20.
That's remarkable.
Isn't that something? Second down and 6. Ballure and Pattison. Tracy Adkins went for the interception. Very close to it. Nice coverage by Adkins, who has 4 interceptions this year.
Watch Mark Pattison as he runs a little out route. Tracy Adkins, I thought this ball had an opportunity to be intercepted. He is driving hard. The only thing that prevents it is the ball is very well thrown away from the defender and allows Pattison to catch it. Not for a big gain, though.
It's still 3 yards to go. 3rd and 3. Ballure, backside pressure. Scrambling. He's got a 1st and goal. Beasley on the stop, but that's the added dimension of Ballure, his ability to run.
Steve Ballure keeps drives alive. It is 3rd and 3. He knows exactly where the stick is. It's a run-pass option. He decides to tuck it under, cuts back. He knows where the 1st down marker is, and he picks up just enough yardage to pick up the 1st down.
2 tight ends are in now. 1st and goal at the 7th. Hines. And the speed of Hines was not enough that time because Joe Taylor really popped him. They're going to lose yardage back to the 10. Taylor had a big interception this year against Michigan. You can see why they feel he's in a class of Don Rogers, the UCLA standout. 2nd and goal from the 10. Hines has had to work hard. He's only averaged 2 yards a carry today. Mike Swanson, our statistician, is always on top of the figures. Here's Ballure. Hunt, the fullback, at the 5. It'll be 3rd and goal from there. Joe Taylor again on the tackle. So we said earlier, nothing is called that doesn't go through the headset of Don James.
And here is a nice call again to his fullback, Walt Hunt. Earlier, Ballure rolled out to his left, kept the ball for the 1st down. Then he threw the ball to the right side. He's using the wide side of the field on each play.
Hunt is playing with a bad knee. He can only practice 1 day a week. They have to drain it. Here we go. 3rd and goal. Ballure with time. Intended for Larry Michael, the tight end. And so they will attempt the field goal.
That is a big defensive play by Washington State. Washington really needed 6 points here to get really back into this football game. Play action fake. He's trying to get the ball to his tight end, Larry Michael. They had 2 tight ends in there. The ball was pretty well thrown, but there's too many defenders there to knock it away from Michael.
22-yard attempt. However, this is a bad angle for Jeff Jagger, who earlier had a 37-yard attempt that was good. But he's equal to it, and he makes it a 14-6 game. So the Huskies, after the 53-yard punt, able to come away with 3. But as Pat said, they'd like to have 7. Well, Washington got 3 points. Interestingly enough, Pat, on the only 2 scores they've had, both of which were field goals, the line of scrimmage was the 25 and 19-yard line when they started the drive. And so they really haven't had any sustained drives. They had the long punt by Danny Green. This is Taylor awaiting the kickoff. I should say James. And we may get a return, the first of the day. Here comes Mike James. He's got an alley, but it closed on him at the last moment. Dahlquist making the tackle.
Let's go back to the 3rd down play here, Gary. We talked about how efficient Washington had been all year long inside the 20. Here is the most critical inside 20 the play they've had this year thus far. It's for the Rose Bowl, remember. It's 3rd and 5 on the 5-yard line, where they don't come through with the 7 points that they needed.
We want to look at that again. It's Beasley, 97. See him there, 97, who got the hand on the ball. We couldn't pick it up the first time. He was a linebacker. That might be the big play of the day yet. From the 20, 1st down for Washington State. Turner keeps it, and he is nailed. Dean Browning was there. Fred Small. Small is their blitzing type guy. They love to send him. Husky bench, a concerned bench. They've got to win this game or they're not headed to the Rose Bowl.
Last year after the loss to Washington State, Don James said he didn't sleep for 2 weeks. He was crushed.
11 months of waiting to get back at him, and now they're trailing. Second down, 10 now for the Cougars. Let's see if they're coming on the blitz. They faked it. Bukowski. He's not coming. Give to Porter. And Porter's been shut down in the second half. Bukowski was the man there. You know, you mentioned that James could not sleep, Pat. Also, Jim Walden said all year long, they said, we can't wait to get back at you. And all Jim Walden said was, we're coming. And they're here. And right now, they're leading. They have a 3rd and 8. Marshall, James, Breland, all split out. See how conservative they are in this play. Turner. The catch is made. That's Breland, and Breland has the first down. Now that was an excellent piece of ad-libbing by both Turner and Breland. 25 yards.
The athleticism of Ricky Turner. We see him run the ball effectively. Now you're going to see a very good throw as he looks first left, then right, avoids Ron Holmes' tackle, and delivers the ball very nicely over the defender to John Breland. That's a very difficult throw over a defender. He had to put enough touch on it, but he certainly did there, allowed Breland to catch the ball for the first down.
So Breland, who had a 61-yard catch against UCLA, makes a big grab there. 25 yards. Here comes Porter. And he's running over some people. First down. .134 yards for Porter.
In the first half, we said Washington State takes big gaps so they can pop their backs through the line. And here's another look at it. A big hole there for Kerry Porter. We've seen Washington State run the option play. We've seen Ricky Turner throw the ball downfield to John Breland, the play before this. And now right back to the dive with Kerry Porter. They give you a lot to defend, Gary.
Boy, when you complete a pass, it opens it up for number 30, doesn't it?
What a day he is having.
Oh, 6 straight 100-yard days. That's a school record. He broke his own record. Porter again. This time maybe 2 yards. Bukowski again there on the stop for Washington.
The thing about that dive play is Kerry Porter gets there so doggone quickly. Like I said, generally this conference is a passing conference, an eye conference where the backs take a long time to get to the line of scrimmage. He gets there very quickly.
It's not too bad, is it? You know, the first 3 games he only had a 51 yards. He was a number 3 fullback. They have discovered one of the premier backs in the country. Second down, a long 8 to go. Turner's going to throw back maybe. That's incomplete. Vince Layton, the tight end, number 92. J.C. Pearson defending on the play, and it's 3rd and 9 now for the Cougars. Pearson around the ball. Almost had the interception earlier out of Oceanside, California. We started to say we weren't sure, Pat, how much Ricky Turner would play because they have another fine quarterback in Mark Rippon, who's a big, strong drop-back passer. They thought Turner's hand would be a factor in the weather, but Turner's been doing a good job. 6 of 8 for 73 yards. 3rd down 9. Flag on the play. Turner just gets rid of it. And he is drilled. Vince Layton, the intended receiver. Stuart Hill really came after Turner that time. Well, we have this opportunity while they determine what that penalty is all about. Let's look ahead. Friday, November 25th from Chestnut Hill.
It's going to be a fun game there.
Yes, sir. Doug Flutie makes it fun. And Ray Perkins, he's got a guy by the name of Walter Lewis that isn't too shabby either.
Well, we saw him against Penn State. Did he play well?
Ooh. And then we switched to basketball on Saturday earlier in the day at 1 o'clock. Kansas against Houston. Houston got beat today. Did you hear that? By North Carolina State. A real shocker. But the Phi Slamma Jamma is going to be very tough against Kansas. And boy, how excited we are to announce that we once again will be giving you exclusive coverage of the NCAA tournament through 1987 right here on CBS. And then following the basketball game, Pat and I will be in Norman, and that's the Snake Pit. And Pat, I've been there many times. I know you didn't get a chance to play there.
Thank goodness.
But oh boy, is that tough.
They don't count Oklahoma out of that one. Some way, Barry Switzer's going to find a way to play Nebraska tough.
Some of you will see Arizona State. That'll be played in Tempe.
Yes, yes.
As soon as they get everything organized here, Lee Cook will let us know what he has determined the penalty was all about.
Now, that's the first penalty this half. Things have really settled down because in the first half we saw 8 penalties. That's only the first one this second half, though.
Okay, Mr. Cook, what do you got there?
He must not be listening to you, Gary. I don't understand it.
Defensive holding. Carries the first down.
So it's against Washington, and Washington State has a first down inside the 25. And the Huskies are still probably saying, oh, if we just gotten 7 points on that last one.
Their defense has been on the field much too long.
Boy, I tell you, if this defense allows them to get a touchdown here, they are really going to be in some difficulty. 2:35 left in the third quarter. 14-6, Washington State. In motion comes Taylor. Jeff to Porter, and Porter with a good vision. Another penalty flag at the 19-yard line. I mentioned the good vision. They tell me that Porter really does not have the ability to see very well. He needs to get some glasses.
He's doing something right. He has outrushed the entire Washington team.
There's holding. This time it's against Washington State. In fact, there are 2 players on this Washington State team that do not see well. The other one, believe it or not, is a guy that fields or punts. Kittrick Taylor, he could not pass the eye exam for his driver's license.
He has 20/60 vision in one eye. Can you imagine putting him back there to receive punts? Jim Walden just found this out.
Oh.
We have offense holding. Yep, first.
So now it's going to be 1st and 20 for the Cougars. Line of scrimmage back out the 33-yard line. Remember, Washington has won 15 straight here in Husky Stadium. And Washington State has not won here since '73. Taylor sends Marshall in motion. He's really driving that defense crazy, running around, delivers the ball. It is incomplete. Marshall was out of bounds, very, very close. That was Pearson defending, and we...
Remember, in college football, all you need to have is 1 foot inbounds. He delivers the ball to number 18, John Marshall, who goes down low to catch it. It looked like he had possession of it there with a foot in bounds. Looked like it was a completion.
Well, I started to say we are going to have a little discussion over that, but evidently they're going to let it go, and it's now 2nd down 20. That was very, very close. Marshall has been such a surprise coming in from the junior college ranks. There he is. He had a remarkable year in junior college. He was an All-American there. In fact, believe it or not, he had 72 catches last year in junior college play. That's amazing.
He makes the tough catch over the middle.
Doesn't he? 2nd and 20. Taylor in motion. A give to Calvin, the man who scored the 2 touchdowns. He's inside the 30-yard line. Long ways to go, though. It'll be 3rd down.
But not a bad call on 2nd and 20. Give your fullback the ball on a draw. Try to get him in field goal range. Maybe come away with at least 3.
3rd and 15 now for the Cougars.
Boy, Washington State's had the ball a long time.
3rd and 16 on the 29.
Going to 3rd and 15. Operating for the 29. There's the 3rd down conversion. Marshall, Moore, James, all flanked out. Ricky Turner, some pressure put on, gets away from Browning. He's going to get to the 25, and oh, was he hit there. Berkowski unloaded on him. There he is. Berkowski's played a Outstanding second half here for Washington. And so it's 4th down and the field goal attempt.
Ricky Turner can really make some people miss. You see him shake the tackle of Dean Browning, number 99 there, just kind of picks his way, but really averted the loss there that would have taken them out of field goal range. A big play there by Ricky Turner when he broke that tackle of Browning.
40-yard attempt by John Trout, who set a school record this year with 15 field goals. He's got enough distance, and that kick is no good. So Trout misses from 40. And Washington still very much in it, trailing 14-6. Let's look again at Trout's field goal attempt from 40 yards out. He thought he hit it. He was celebrating. Remember now, it has to stay inside that pole. And from that vantage point, it looks like it was outside, and that's what the officials determined. Back to the live action. Valur complete to Stransky, and that's a first down toss, the 11 yards. Washington trying to capitalize now on that missed field goal. Line of scrimmage just across the 35. Stransky, Patterson split out for Valur. 20 seconds left in the 3rd quarter. Give to Jackson. Milford Hodge made the stop. North Carolina, Duke. Let's get an update. Here's Brent Musburger.
Duke is playing its game of the year. Watch their standout quarterback, Ben Bennett, elude the would-be tackler, zip his second touchdown. They go ahead of North Carolina, but the Tar Heels are setting up for a field goal that could tie it. Back to Gary.
So Duke is really moving. We've come to the end of the 3rd quarter. Our score, 14-6 in favor of Washington State. Washington State is an exclusive presentation of CBS Sports. We'll be back with 4th quarter action after this message and a word from your local station. It's the 4th quarter. Washington will be heading into the wind as they have a 2nd down 8, trailing in this game 14-6. Jackson and Hunt in the backfield. Valur, pressure on him. Wide open. Green, and Green, after being hurt, has come back to make the catch.
The second big play we've seen Danny Green make this second half. Earlier was a big punt return. There's the big reception by number 80, Danny Green.
Green with a 53-yard return. That's a 19-yard completion. Pat, tension is mounting. Everyone watching the score from the Coliseum. USC still leading UCLA. Here's Washington trailing Washington State.
14-6. If Washington scores, they'll go for 2 to tie it up, but they need 2 scores to win because a tie will not do Washington any good today.
They will not send them to Pasadena.
They definitely need to win.
Let's look at the standings just to kind of update you. Washington lost to UCLA. UCLA with the tie. They're coming against Arizona State. Washington loses and UCLA wins or ties against USC. The Bruins are back in the Rose Bowl. There's the score we were telling you about. So 2 games. I wonder what they're thinking down there in Pasadena, or I should say Los Angeles. Broken up. Hunt, the intended receiver.
You get the feeling about this Washington offense that they have never gotten anything going. They've never put 3 or 4 first downs together to really establish the rhythm and momentum that's so important. Actually, the one time they had something going was right before the first half ended, and they had the big turnover there. It's been a very difficult day for them. The Washington State defense has really disrupted their offensive flow.
3rd down and 11 for the Huskies. Pat Lynch is now coming at nose guard for Washington State. That's Stransky in motion. Valur looks like he's trying to set up to the far side. He does. Complete to Jackson. Jackson not going to get the first down. He's at the 38. He needed to get to the 34. Pat Lynch, who just came in, made the tackle.
3rd and 10 for Washington. They have not done a very effective job of getting the ball really downfield, so they try something different, a little change of pace. Cookie Jackson on the screen. Tries to pick up a couple of blocks, but there's too many Washington State defenders there who have recovered from the fake and there to make the stop before he can pick up the first down.
Joe Taylor's been hurt for Washington State. He's hurt his arm. He's coming off, and look at this. The Bruins have taken the lead. 13-10. Terry Donahue told us last week, he said every game has been like a baton death march. Last week, had a chance to tie it with seconds left. Washington's asked for a timeout. They have 2 remaining. We come back, it's 4th and 4. It's 4th and 4 for the Washington Huskies. And Pat, on 4th downs this year, a remarkable statistic for Washington. Look at that.
7 of 8. The team's actually 7 of 9. Steve Pelor, 7 of 8. We said he knows how to keep drives alive. That's what he's done.
And here we are at the 13:46 mark of the 4th quarter.
A little earlier in the game, Steve Pelor rolled out on 3rd and 3 and ran the football for the first down.
Big play. Pelor's rolling out again. Stransky, and broken up beautifully that time. The coverage by Joe Taylor, who had come off the field during that timeout with a shoulder and an arm that was bothering him.
You mentioned Steve Pelor had run for the first down earlier in the game. This time he's trying to get the ball to Stransky on 4th down, but Joe Taylor is equal to the task. He had him very well covered. He's been all over the field here in the first half. Good coverage by this Washington State defense. They will not give up. They know it's 4th and 4 here. They're playing very tight coverage. There's nowhere for Stransky to go, and Taylor deflects the ball away. A big defensive play by Joe Taylor.
Taylor's made about a half dozen big plays. They take over on downs. They being Washington State at the 39-yard line. They have a 14-6 lead. Give to Porter. Porter really slammed down this time. There's Taylor. What in the world is that on his face? I've never seen anything like that.
He may have broken his nose at some point during the season. The way he hits, it wouldn't surprise me if he's done that.
I'll tell you, the job that Jim Walden has done with these kids, the way he has built this Washington State football team up to this point where they're keeping and trying to keep Washington out of the Rose Bowl for the 2nd consecutive year. 2nd down, 9. Porter again. He may get 2, and he pays for those 2. Did you see Rogers coming up and kind of slamming that pile backwards? It'll be 3rd and 7 now for the Cougars. There's Rogers. He's broken his arm twice.
See that by his left arm with all the padding he's wearing there. Big defensive down for Washington.
The line of scrimmage, the 42. 12:29 left in this game. 2 running backs this time, Calvin and Porter. Turner changing the play. That's what they're doing. He had 2 seconds to snap the ball. Intercepted. That's Krakowski.
Defensive secondary of Washington. They knew they had to come up with a big play. The offense has been struggling all day. The defense here, and Joe Krakowski in particular, is right there for the task. He steps right in front of the receiver, there to make the big play defensively and give his offense a chance.
First interception, however, the 2nd turnover by Washington State. Pelor trying to capitalize on it, gives up the middle to Sterling Hines. He's stopped on the play by the interior, particularly Milford Hodge. How many times, Pat, have you seen a guy roll around like that, try to throw, running to his left or right-hander, and throw an interception?
They always say never throw the ball late down the middle, and that's just what Ricky Turner did. It caused an interception.
But give credit to Krakowski. He has played a whale of a game in the 2nd half. 14-6. 11:30 left in the game. Patterson in motion. 2nd and 6. Pelor being chased. Almost intercepted that time. Carrillo, 91.
There's Danny Green, who's come up with a couple of big plays here for the Washington team. Really the only big plays they've had. But there's 91, Ben Carrillo, to step right in front of Green. I don't believe Pelor ever saw him.
Carrillo, he was at Bishop Amat for a while, your high school.
That's right.
3rd down, 6. Patterson in motion. Lure. And that's underthrown, intended for Patterson, who had been the man in motion. Chappelle has played very well. The freshman over to defend on the play. It's 4th down.
In close games under Don James, Washington has been very, very good. This year, Washington has won 2 games by a 1-point margin. Of the last 15 occasions where Washington has been involved with games with under 7 points or less, they've won 13 of those games.
They're in a close one here, 14-6. And now they had one person that didn't report to this punt team coming in late. They have 6 seconds to snap the ball. And Cleveland, looks like for a moment he might run with it. And that will go into the end zone for the touchback. So after the turnover, Washington not able to capitalize on it. 38-yard punt. Washington State with the lead in the football.
From the land of sky blue waters, from the land of pine's lofty blossoms, comes the clear refreshing.
The bear is taking off, and so will your party when you open up an ice-cold ham. So for you light beer drinkers, Ham's Special Light. Happy landing!
Ham's the beer refreshing, Ham's the beer refreshing, Ham's.
A pensive look. Time might be running out on the Washington Huskies. 11:09 remaining. They trail 14-6. If they lose and UCLA wins, the Bruins go to the Rose Bowl, and the Bruins have built their lead to a 10-point advantage. Don James likes these pressure games. Well, he's got some pressure now. From the 20. The interception, they were not able to get any points out of it. Ricky Turner giving off to Calvin. Duke, North Carolina. Well, we were with Brent a while ago. Let's see what's happened since that time. Here's New York and Brent.
Gary, this one is wild and woolly. North Carolina tied it, and Duke stormed right back. Mike Grayson went in for the touchdown. That made it 24-17, and now the Tar Heels are threatening again. Let's go back to Gary and Pat.
Well, there seems to be something about final games of the year, huh? Look at the play selection here. Washington's always been balanced, haven't they?
You're right, but Washington State's run the ball 46 times and very, very effectively controlled the clock and the ball.
Right now, they have a 2nd and 7. Pitch coming back, and that's Calvin, stopped by Browning. Out to the 27-yard line. It'll be 3rd down, and 3. One consolation, I guess, for this Washington team is if they lose here, they're headed to Honolulu. But they have twice. That's right. You know that. You've played in those games. You've talked about what a thrill it is to be in the Rose Bowl.
And for some of these Washington State seniors, this is their last opportunity, last game.
On to 3rd and 3 now. Turner. He's going to tuck it in, and he's not going to get the first down. Stuart Hill was over there.
The defense has done their job again. It's up to Washington's offense.
Stuart Hill, a walk-on who has increased his strength so much in the weight room. And it's really becoming now a gut check time for this Washington team. There's now 9:20 left as they're going to receive this ball. Harper to kick. This is Green. Remember, he had a 53-yard return earlier. They're trying to kick away from him, and they did a good job of it. Look at that roll. Oh, my. Watch this. It goes in. 72-yard kick by Harper. He needed a 71-yarder. But at the 20, Washington is 80 yards away. This is the end of a 72-yard punt by Glenn Harper. Look how close it came to dying at the 1-foot line. The touchback, and instead of starting for the 1, Washington starts from the 20, trailing 14-6. Complete to Patterson. Patterson has a first down to the 32. And Pat, let's reestablish something again. They've got to score twice.
Absolutely. Even if they score a touchdown, a tie will not do them any good. They need to score twice, a touchdown and a field goal, to win this football game and to put them in the Rose Bowl.
And they've got a piece of work to be able to get there, too, because they're at the 31-yard line with now 8:48 left in the game. First down. Pelluer pressure. Oh, is he hit? That's Krakowski, the other Krakowski, the freshman variety. An 8-yard loss. The two brothers have been very apparent by their ability here today. There's a guy who's a fourth linebacker at the start of the year.
Well, you're right. We have not heard much from him today, but Steve Pelluer sure hears from him right now. He comes in and parts Steve Pelluer's hair right there. Nowhere to go.
Out of Fremont, California, the Krakowski family has to be very proud of their sons today. Back to throw Pelluer on 2nd and 18. That pass is complete. They're close to the original line of scrimmage. Coming up with it, the tight end, Tony Roten.
You know, Gary, college careers go by so quickly. We sit here as we watch these seniors play. Their careers just zip by in a blink of an eyelash. For these seniors, particularly today, in a big traditional game like Washington State, they remember this for the rest of their lives. It means a great deal to these young men.
Especially when you got a chance to play in a Rose Bowl. 3rd and 10. Pelluer with time and thrown behind the receiver, Pattison. They're going to have to kick the football. Don James has got to wonder how many more times they're going to get a chance at it.
Well, the defensive secondary of Washington State realizes that Washington has to score twice. Again, they're going to let them get anything underneath. And you see 3 deep men right there. They're not going to give up a cheap touchdown. Anything that happens is going to have to happen in front of them. And that's the ball was thrown to Pattison, but he was definitely not open.
Pelluer now 17 of 28 for 126 yards, and Cleveland will punt. Took his time getting rid of it. High, but not particularly long, and bounces off of Washington State. That was one of the most unusual attempts to field a punt I've seen in some time.
Well, we said he had bad eyesight.
It's going to be the Cougars football. And you know what? They end up with a pretty good break on that. That ball comes way up the field. They're going to be in the Washington end of the field. Mike James, the guy that pounced on it. With 7:15 to go, the Cougars have it. We have a man shaken up on the field. It's Kittrick Taylor. Now, the interesting story on Mr. Taylor is he tried to field that punt, which hit him in the shoulder pads, and he is the man who has the eyesight problems, and you wonder if that didn't affect him on that particular play. It's an unusual play here. Let's look at it again.
Looks like Kittrick Taylor really overran this, just misjudged it. It was a short punt. He tried to run up. He's trying to fair catch it as well, but overruns it. The ball comes down on his shoulder pad.
For those of you who are optometrists, he has 20/60 vision, which isn't good.
There's a lot of those in the audience, I'm sure.
We have an update from the Los Angeles Coliseum. Look at this. The Bruins. If they lose that, USC, that'd be the first losing season since 1961. You're making a point about that, though, Pat. Wasn't it the next year after that the USC went on to a national championship?
That's absolutely right. John McKay lost his first 2 years as a head coach at Southern Cal, came back in his 3rd season to win the national championship.
Well, there's Taylor, and you know, the interesting thing about this play was after all of that ball bouncing off his shoulder pads, they picked up 14 yards on the fumble and moved the ball all the way into Washington's end of the field. You don't want to do it that way, but Jim Walden, I'm sure, will take it. Texas, boy, those Longhorns, we've seen them. They are something. And Illinois finished up with a flurry. SMU, only one loss, and what a year they've had under Bobby Collins. BYU, I don't think they've scored less than 40 points a game in any game. Look at that. Syracuse beating West Virginia. And there was that traditional battle that ended up in a tie. And Doug Flutie had a big day. Here we go. First down at the 43-yard line of Washington. The Cougars leading 14-6. Porter on the pitch. Struggles for 5-6 yards. Joe Kelly, number 36, making the stop for Washington. And here's a final. Kansas upset Missouri. The Jayhawks under Mike Gottfried with a big win. Maryland, Boomer Esiason and the team winning, and that's the score we told you about a moment ago. There's a game, and the fan game, the play game, whatever you want to call it.
The Stanford band spent the whole year in the weight room.
Well, they got an offensive explosion there, Oregon and Oregon State. Air Force. Wisconsin will finish the year at 7-4, and Purdue, that's for the Oaken Bucket, winning that one. Porter on that last carry now has 147 yards on 25 attempts. 9-yard run a moment ago. It's 2nd down 1. We welcome those who have been watching the Kentucky-Tennessee game. We're here in Husky Stadium in Seattle. Washington State right now in a position to upset this Washington Husky team and keep the Huskies out of the Rose Bowl for the 2nd year in a row.
It's been a game where Washington State has run the option play. They don't see that much here in the Pac-10. It was something that Don James, the Washington head coach, was concerned about, and rightfully so, because Washington State has come out, run the dive play with Kerry Porter, and then come back and set that up by running the option play outside for big gains.
You mentioned Porter. He has 147 yards rushing today. He's a sophomore out of Great Falls, Montana. First down from the 32. Washington desperately needs the football. Give this time to Richard Calvin, a freshman running back, and Joe Krakowski made the tackle. A year ago, it's almost like deja vu. Washington was in a position to go to the Rose Bowl. Washington State upset them 24-20 in Pullman. And here today in Seattle, in Husky Stadium, the home of this Washington team, the Cougars lead it 14-6. And the way it stands right now, UCLA is beating USC. If Washington loses, UCLA wins. The Bruins are back in the Rose Bowl. 2nd and 8. Ricky Turner, that time he just got on the football, protected it. Don James, the dean of Pac-10 coaches. He wanted to take this team to his 3rd Rose Bowl in 4 years. But across the way, Jim Walden, who 2 years ago took his team to the Holiday Bowl, the first bowl trip since 1931. And for the 2nd year in a row, wants to upset this Washington team. It would be the first time since 1972-73 they've won back-to-back games against Washington. 3rd and 10. So that's the stage, and the tension mounting here if you're a Washington fan. A give to Porter, and Porter continues to add yardage to his total. Brings it to the 25-yard line. Kerry Porter has just been outstanding, 155 yards. His 6th straight 100-yard day.
He attacks the line of scrimmage. He was a 3rd-team fullback when they started the football season. Jim Walden didn't know much about him, but he's found out quite a bit about him the last 6 weeks, as each week he's rushed for over 100 yards.
He was the number 3 fullback at the start of the year. John Trout now will attempt a 41-yard field goal. Trout earlier missed from 40. And Trout's kick is on the way, and it's a big field goal. That's good. From 41 yards away, John Trout, the sophomore from Laguna Hills, California. And Washington State leads it 17-6. Washington State 17, Washington 6. The other game in the battle for the Rose Bowl, as you look at Don James, who's running out of time with 3:46 left in the game. And meanwhile, down in the Los Angeles Coliseum, UCLA leading USC. What that means, if it stays the way it is here and stays as it is in Los Angeles, the Bruins return to the Rose Bowl. And here is the man that has upset the apple cart of Washington the last 2 years in the game called the Apple Cup. John Trout, who just kicked a 41-yard field goal. They got to score twice, but more importantly, they scored 2 touchdowns now.
Absolutely. A tie does them no good.
John Trout kicking off.
And so they're bringing it out the 20-yard line. Be sure to join us tomorrow now for the NFL on CBS. What a battle this is going to be. The Vikings against the Steelers. Steelers 9-2, and the Vikings tied for the NFC Central lead. They hope to bounce back from a 3-game losing streak, and it's not going to be easy because the Steelers playing great defense. Or some of you will see the San Francisco 49ers take on the Atlanta Falcons. Great NFL action right here on CBS. And there is the Apple Cup. Symbolic of the winner of this rivalry between Washington State. A lot of great traditional battles throughout the country. None better than this one. Fuller. And down he goes. That's Millard. North Carolina Duke. An update. Here's Brent.
Gary, we've got twin developments. Now, here is Ben Bennett, the Duke quarterback. He passes Jim McMahon and John Elway, and he becomes the all-time NCAA career passing leader. But North Carolina has just struck from 54 yards. They're tied at 27. Back to Gary and Pat.
Our congratulations to Ben Bennett. Actually, a remarkable record, breaking Jim McMahon's total passing yardage.
I tell you, Steve Sloan has that team going. That'd be 4 wins in a row if they could go on from there. There's a pass to Lutu, the tight end. That'll be a first. No, check that. It'll be 9 yards short of the first down. The long sack, bringing up a 2nd and 18, and now they're still maybe 8 yards away. 2:49 left.
Really, Washington should not be huddling. They have a problem with the clock here. They need 2 touchdowns. They need to score very quickly and get the ball back.
They have 2 timeouts left. Over the top, Stransky, and it was hanging in the air, and Tracy Adkins had a crack at an interception. Say that 4.5-hour bus ride back to Pullman, Washington is going to be a joyous one for this Husky, or I should say Cougar team.
You're right. You saw Tracy Adkins drive on the ball there. He did that a little earlier in the game and almost came up with an interception. Tracy Adkins from Los Angeles.
Manual Arts High School. He was a walk-on, a transfer from junior college.
The senior playing his last football game for the Cougars.
So it's 4th and 8. Mallure's got to get something here. And that is not going to be enough for the first down. Lutu stopped short. Fine open field tackle that time by Rob Treese, number 13.
Fourth and 8. One of the things a receiver has to do is make sure he gets the necessary yardage for the first down. And he did not get it on that opportunity. They turned the ball over.
And so with 2:25 left, the Washington State fans are starting to celebrate.
Here's another look. Like we said, it was 4th and 8. Pelluer gets the ball to Lutu. There's the defenders right there. Number 13 is Rob Treese. No way to get the first down.
Turner gives off to Porter. Porter to the 20. And Porter will go out of bounds at the 17-yard line. Al Britton gets him. But there's my MVP for the game, Kerry Porter. You have any argument there?
No objections.
166 yards. Last time now, remember this, that Washington State has won here in Seattle was 1973. That's a stunned Washington team.
You hope and you dream and you start your season in the Pac-10 hoping to go to the Rose Bowl. That dream's been dashed this afternoon.
Give again to Porter inside the 15-yard line with 2:13 left in the game. think it shows you how tough it's been this year. There's a good chance UCLA going to the Rose Bowl, they'd have a 6-4-1 record. It's probably the poorest record in a long time as far as the Pac-10 is concerned.
It's a very balanced conference right now, as we're seeing here today.
From the 15-yard line, 2nd down 8. Porter again, what a workhorse he is, stays on his feet, gets to the 9. Check that, that's LeBomb, number 21. Man who we didn't expect to see because of ankle problems. Third down now, 3 yards to go. 1 minute left in the game. This is Porter. Porter very close to that first down. Well, Jim Walden had an 8-3-1 record 2 years ago. They had all kinds of injuries last year, won only 3 games. And now today, he's going to win his 7th of the year. The Washington State defense, they played to form. Mike Swanson, our statistician, pointed out they allowed only 3 points in the second half. That's been what they've been doing down the stretch. They've just shut teams down.
5 wins in a row.
Want to thank Mike Swanson, our statistician, and Steve Bear, our spotter, for an excellent job as this game winds down. Porter on 4th down and a yard. It's all academic. The congratulations in order for Jim Walden. We're going to have to get everybody off the field because what's happened is they stopped him. Change of possession would stop the clock. And so they're going to have to take one more snap. Let's see, they're going to measure to see if they got the first down. What it amounts to, they'd have a 1st and goal or Washington to take over on downs with 6 seconds. Washington State's ready to celebrate, and they're going to have to wait. So the Huskies get the football.
Disappointment.
Jim Walden said, we're going to come in here relaxed. We don't have anything to lose, everything to gain. He thought the pressure was on Washington. And this will be the last snap of this football game, unless Ballure doesn't complete it. And it's almost intercepted. Washington State has stunned Washington and has blocked the road to the Rose Bowl for the Washington Huskies for the 2nd year in a row. A disappointed Don James, a very satisfied and proud Jim Walden. And so Washington State defeats Washington 17-6. The Chevrolet most valuable players are for Washington State, Kerry Porter. 30 carries, 169 yards. For the Washington Huskies, Danny Green, he had a punt return of 53 yards, 3 catches for 30 yards. And a check in the amount of $1,000 will be donated by Chevrolet to each College General Scholarships Fund to further assist qualified students in all chosen academic fields.
Gary, the difference was the Washington State offense. They controlled the football. They controlled the clock. They gave the ball to Kerry Porter in critical situations. He responded.
And so the story here is Washington is out of the Rose Bowl as UCLA is marching to their return to Pasadena for the second year in a row. UCLA leading the Trojans of USC. Some final thoughts in a moment.